the difference between people who make big moves is that they set a goal and then they create the plan to achieve that goal. It's all well and good saying, I want a big salon, I want employees, I want to start education. But unless you actually map out what do I need to start doing today and working towards to get me there, then you're going to be stuck in the same position forever. Welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy, and today I'm joined with Elli, and we're going to be talking about the different stages in business and what you should be prioritizing to move to the next level.
It's going to be a good chat today, I think, because there are so many parts throughout your journey as a business owner that you might take into consideration or literally is going to just go over the top of your head because you're like all guns are blazing, like you're just going for it.
With every level, there's a new devil, and we're going to be talking about the devils that are going to come up for you. So let's start off. You've just gone and done training, or you've gone and worked for someone else and you've decided to go out on your own. So when we go to set up a business, Elli, what are some of the key things that we should be prioritizing in those initial stages?
Well, I'm going to start off actually with an unpopular decision because you said then come out of training, start your own business, right? Or you've worked for someone and start your own business. And I have like one of my girlfriends and I went to the same college. She worked for a business, the same business, and took over the business. And I went and worked for multiple businesses and have never taken over a business or run my own solo business, right? And I think that you definitely need to work in a business. And this could be an unpopular decision, but working in a business shows you so many different things from an employee's perspective that unless you have had the opportunity to do that, you don't know how you would want to actually run it. And that's where I suppose when I come into people's businesses and they haven't worked as an employer in a business, there's so many areas that they can't even fathom or take into consideration because they haven't been that person yet. So before you even open a business, I think it's definitely important that you work in a business or at least a business so that you can see things from both sides so that you can be a really effective team leader or business owner. But I just had to throw that one in there. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Obviously,
think that's really well. I'm just thinking back to a lot of my guests on the podcast episodes, and most of the ones who have really big teams now, they worked for probably about 6 to 8 years for other salons before they went out on their own. And I also want to give a massive shout out to Libby, who she booked a one-on-one call with me to do profitable pricing before she even opened up her business. And I thought that is the most incredible sense of initiative I've ever had. And she had sat down, gone through profitable pricing. She'd mapped out all of her products, how long the treatments would take. She even knew from start to finish how she was going to deliver them because she's experienced and seen how the clinic she works in runs it. She actually is in a great position with her employer that she's allowed to go out and start her own business, and it was made known from her employment that she was gaining experience. So that's fine on that end. But what I love about it is she had this really in-depth business plan, and she actually had taken the time to map out everything. And I think when I speak to a lot of people, even 3-5 years in, I'm like, what's your business plan? There is no plan. It is just show up every day and survive. And I think the difference between people who make big moves is that they set a goal and then they create the plan to achieve that goal. It's all well and good saying, I want a big salon, I want employees, I want to start education. But unless you actually map out what do I need to start doing today and working towards to get me there, then you're going to be stuck in the same position forever. So business plan, being able to have the experience for someone else.
Yeah.
And then let's say you've opened up now. What are you making as an investment or a prioritization to learn when you first open up that isn't working on clients and offering services?
Yeah. Okay. So if you open up your own space and you're on your own, right? You don't have any staff yet. Yeah. I mean, this girl that you're talking about probably has done the most perfect thing possible, because you want to make sure that whatever you're servicing it at a profitable place, so that when you hit your next step, you've got money already to go to take that next step. So I think things like the profitable pricing calculator that you provide people is probably a really good one. I think also, if you have intentions on taking on staff, start early with your protocols of the services that you're actually providing. Because when you get them in, you're streamlining exactly what it is that you do to your expectations, so that when they come on board, they're meeting those expectations. I mean, there's a million and one things when you onboard staff, but one of the things that I would be doing whilst I'm just on my own is actually being really mindful of the processes that I take and mapping out those protocols, so that when someone onboards, they're a minion essentially to what I've been doing, and they're going to provide the same level of treatment that I would provide. That would be my first thing. What would be yours?
Mine would be branding.
Oh, yeah.
I would be really investing in creating a unique brand. Like, I would be getting really clear on what is my brand mission, my vision, like where are we going with this? What is the whole purpose of doing all of this? What are our values? What sets us apart from everyone else? And then I would look at, okay, now that I understand the identity of my brand, what visuals, graphics, branding photos are actually going to represent that? I think most people start off with a Canva logo and then they kind of hope for the best. But I believe in building a brand from the start, and it's never going to be perfect or what you initially want.
And you
So
will always evolve and
100%.
change. Yep.
But it's just like, without a brand, you can't do marketing, because you don't know what you're selling, because you don't know what makes you different. You don't even know who you are. It's like trying to sell something that doesn't exist, right? It's really hard to do. Unless you're me and you can just talk everyone's ear off. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, you need to know who you are and what makes you different. And that's what's going to stop you from blending in with everyone else and help you stand out. And I think brand is so important, because when I look on my social media and I scroll through, everyone's posting the same before and afters. There's nothing that makes them stand out. But as soon as I see a certain style of graphic, the logo could not even be there. I'm reading through the caption. I know that it's that person because they've built such a strong brand. So I think brand's a huge thing. Then you've got to look at lead gen, not just marketing, lead generation. Like, how do we get clients? This is lead gen in Facebook group posts. It is either posting on your stories, building an audience, or running Facebook ads. You need to do something that's going to get eyeballs on your brand and get people booking in. And then from there, it's kind of like, all right, you're getting clients in, you'll get to a point where you're booked out, right? One person, you're capped at your hours, you're probably feeling burnt out. And then the next step is naturally going to be, if you want to, hire a team member. So what should I be thinking about if I'm hiring my very first team member?
Before we go into that, I'm going to go back a little bit, because the things, it's so interesting how we fall into into your business mindset and my business mindset. they're so different, but they're so important combined. So when you talk about the things that you think is really important, I think majority of beauty business owners don't even know where to start when it comes to lead generation, branding and marketing. So therefore, then I think one of their first investments is the likes of someone like yourself who can assist them through that. Because from a personal perspective, there's a certain point in my business where I knew all the things that I had, but I didn't know how to get that out there. And I needed someone like you to help me get there. Now, I could have gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And, you know, I had mapped out how much money I needed to make, to know how much I could invest, to know how much I could step forward. But I actually couldn't step forward without having those skills, and I couldn't obtain them. I mean, the amount of time I would have spent trying to learn that, watching YouTubes, then learning how to put it into place and whatnot. So I think one of the first steps then is actually investing in someone who can streamline that for you or make that process easier for you so that you can take the next step. Because I just don't think that beauty business owners, we weren't trained to do those things at all.
You have to learn marketing in the early stages if you want to be able to make money, because if you don't have any skills in marketing, you won't have clients, you won't have money, you won't have a business. And I think when you learn what business you're truly in, that's when the success happens. We're in the beauty industry. It's not about beauty. It is about marketing.
I mean, if you want to sell anything, it always comes down to your marketing. Putting like they say that in business, your marketing is almost like 70% of your outgoings. Because if you've not got it out there, what's it going to be anyway? Right? But went off on a tangent there. What would I do once I was ready to hire people? Was that the question?
Yeah, first employee, what kind of things do you need to prioritize? So I remember in the start you said you would be building out essentially your
Protocols.
SOPs, how you're going to deliver this treatment so that when you hire someone, you're not just showing them, but you're also giving them maybe scripts or maybe a step-by-step process to actually follow. So if they forget, they can refer back to it. So other than that, what are some other things from a team perspective or leadership perspective would I need to start doing?
I would have an onboarding process. Like actually map out my onboarding process, because I think a lot of business owners go, okay, so what I'll do is I'll get you to come in. You're just going to shadow me for the day, watch what I do. You'll get used to the system. I'll show you how to book a few things, and then we'll get you.
I'm trying to not laugh. I'm like, I literally.
True. Isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And then I'll get you to watch a few treatments and I'll get you to get a few people in and then we'll practice. Now, all of these things are necessary, yes, but I think having a specific day 1, day 2 with a plan of attack, you're ticking it off, whether it even be, like I say to my business owners now who have 6 staff, if you're implementing something new, be smart about it. If it's something on the system or a report that you want them to look at, take a video, walk through the video, save the video, put it in your onboarding process. So rather than you having to actually, spend 2 whole days with them, you could say, here is the run through for the morning and I'm going to get you to watch these few things and map it out. Like it's just effective use of time, really. So I think having an onboarding process is really important because it means they know what they're going to get covered. You know what you're covering, and then you can have meetings. That's the other one, actually. The other one is it's almost like a 90-day probation. We've discussed this, right? And, making sure you're checking in with your staff. So having a probation in place, being very clear and concise with what stages we're going to be doing what and their expectations. And probably the third thing, you're like, what's one thing? The third thing, I don't think there's ever just one thing, right? You're talking to me. But with the third thing, it would be their roles and responsibilities really outlined.
I would do that first, actually. Before the onboarding, I would recommend mapping out the role and responsibility of where does this person fit within the business? Because I have seen many times, you'd be great to work for me. And I'm like, no. Does she have the skills? Does she have the attitude? Is she the right person for what you need in your business right now? Do not hire someone who has an admin and, an admin background and is coming in and now doing brows. Like she has no experience. Now you've got to spend even more time. It's actually designing the role and the job description for what the business needs, not, I should just hire this thing and then I'll just create the job or role. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm with you. They're probably my 3 things.
I think that's super valuable and it does feel very overwhelming. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I reckon this whole hiring process with bowling was a lot more confronting than my VA and my OBM, because when you're in person and you've got people and you're really responsible for them, you have to be so patient, but you're all trying to hold it together. Oh my gosh, financially, was this the right decision? My income's dropped. You've only got one revenue stream of income, which is yours. Then you've got to cover their wages. There's a lot of mindset things that will come up for you. And I think in those early stages, making sure you save up or you map out how this is going to work for your business as well. So there's reactive hiring, which we've spoken about before, which is oh my gosh, I'm booked out, I need to hire someone. And there's proactive hiring, which is looking at, okay, well, if I add this team member in and I've got this many people on my wait list, then I can actually start getting clients to go to them and I can train them up. Then this will bring that much revenue into the business. Cool. Once they hit this stage and we have this many inquiries, now we'll bring the next team member in. And that's like the step by step to scale. But the fail to scale is I'm going to hire all these different people, all these different services, not have any kind of marketing, bringing in enough clientele to service those employees. And then your business is taking a hit. You're not bringing in enough revenue. You've got to let some people go. It's very messy. I was chatting with a salon owner the other day who said, Sammy, I feel like I'm constantly working, but nothing's actually working. She was posting daily, reels, stories, replying to DMs between clients. Her team looked to her for everything, and she still lay in bed at night wondering if next week's bookings would cover the bills. Sound familiar? That's exactly why I created Booked, Banked and In Demand. It's the system I wish I had when I was burnt out, overwhelmed, and wondering if all this effort was ever going to pay off. And it's now helped over 300 beauty business owners get off the income roller coaster and actually grow, filling their books, boosting their income, and finally building a business that gives back instead of draining them. Inside, I'll show you how to attract clients with content that actually converts, use AI and done-for-you scripts to save 20 plus hours a week, hire your first VA and delegate the entire back end of your business, and build a system that keeps your business booked without burning you out. So if you've been craving clarity, clients, cash flow, and calm, this is your shortcut. Click the link in the show notes and join Booked, Banked and In Demand now. Let's build a beauty business that doesn't run you into the ground. What are some tips or advice that you would say to help someone strategically move in from having one employee to then scaling up to maybe like their first 3 to 5?
I feel like you kind of answered that question then when you were talking about it, because you want to make sure that you've got the need for them. Yep. First and foremost, you want to make sure you also as a business owner has the time to invest in them. I feel like that's another really big one, especially with hairdressers and apprentices now. I can't believe how much you invest in a apprentice and how quickly they can go, thank you, I've got it now and I'm out of here, girlfriend, because I know I can make this much money doing hair on my own. But making sure that you have the demand for another therapist, you've got the time to put into the other therapist, and then I suppose we go into, having active one-on-ones or having staff performance reports to make sure that they're all obtaining the same level of expertise, they're delivering the same way, that they're incentivized, that they're driven, that there's high energy in the clinic, that they are showing up the part and looking the part. I mean, going from like 1 or 2 employees to a whole team, because the dynamic completely changes, right?
Definitely. I think as well, when you go from 1 or 2, it's quite intimate, as in, you guys can have a friendly conversation. It's just 2 of you. But then as soon as you get to that like 4 or 5, it's like, okay, we need to have team meetings. It's not just a one-on-one here and there. Like we need to all align what we're doing in the business, what we're working towards. And you kind of have to go from, we're just, friendly with each other to now we actually need more structure. We need to hold each other accountable. I think it's the starting phase when there's a smaller team, it almost feels like they can get away with a lot more because it's just the 2 of you. But when it's 5 of you and if everyone continues that mindset and showing up in the workplace like that, that's when things get really messy.
Yes. There are so many businesses that I know, not that I work with, but if the business owner isn't present and on top of it, it's so toxic. Like, oh my gosh, it's so toxic. And the girls are so unhappy and the culture in the clinic is terrible because the business owner hasn't implemented those things that they need to have to make sure that the team is successful.
And so at what stage do you think it's important for the business owner to start going, hey, I'm not on the clients anymore. I've actually got to invest more time into my team. And that doesn't mean dropping clients completely if they don't want to. But I think when I've seen it, most people start off with first employee, second, third, and then they just keep getting everyone fully booked. and they're not taking that time to step away and work on the business. And I know you've done things like leadership training, and you've also done personality types and starting to understand, how do I communicate with my team? How do I set my team up for success? How do we actually start holding each other accountable? How do we develop the clinic culture? That doesn't come naturally most of the time.
No.
So at what stage do you know you're ready? Like, are there warning signs, or is it something we do proactively at a certain level? Like, how do you know you're ready? Because I think that's half the problem. People don't know when the right time is to do it, and they usually wait until it's too late.
Yes. Or they're losing staff and wondering, why can I not maintain staff members? I think that from the get-go, you should always be having active conversations, whether you have 2 staff or whether you have 6 staff, because they need the time to be able to communicate what they need, how they need it, where they want to go, how you're going to get them there. So I think you always need to have things like active, one-on-ones with your team. But if you're finding that the things that you would want in your business are not succeeding, whether that be the culture in the business, whether that be your staff aren't showing up in the way that you would want them to, you need to start there and then.
Yes.
And from the minute, like, let's say you have 2 staff members and you do have your one-on-ones type thing and you bring in a third one, you implement those things when someone new onboards so that it's across the board. And then the next person who comes in has the expectations across the board. And again, that onboarding process is, this is our vision, this is our mission, this is where we want to go, this is how we do it. And it might be overwhelming for them. They might not have come from a clinic that actually sits down and has strategic sessions, or they have, 3-hour-long meetings at the start of the year to be like, this is what our goals are for this is what we want to do. But like the first podcast we did, gone are the days where people go to a business and just want to work. They want more out of it. So as a business owner, you have to provide more time for them. So I would honestly say, if you've got 4 team members and you have the ability to step away from your business and only work on clients or on the tools for 2 days, you should be having so many more meetings than you could even probably imagine. Meetings with team leaders, if you've got team leaders, meetings with all the staff members, meetings to read your reports, meetings to implement marketing. Like, there is so much stuff to do as a business owner. It's actually hard. I feel sorry for my business owners that are still in a place where they can't quite let their clients go yet, but they know how much they actually need to put back into the business.
Definitely. It's quite interesting when you look at the people who win the ABIA awards.
ABIA.
I don't know. I think Darcy came on the podcast the other day and she called it ABIA, and I was like, it was Australian Bridal Industry Awards, and then there's the Australian Beauty Industry Awards. And I'm like, I don't know, they all sound the same. But like Australian Beauty Industry Awards, you look at someone like Danielle from Bobby Charles, who has a massive team. Is she in there seeing clients every single day? No, she has a leadership team. She has marketing. And I think that's kind of the next stage. It's like you might be in this awkward period for a while where it's like you've got a small team but not enough team to then need a manager. But then you're like, I can't actually do all the tasks because I'm still seeing clients, so I do need a manager. And then as the team starts to scale even more, that manager now needs support from like an assistant manager, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
It's so achievable. I've done this with one of my businesses where we're looking at where she wanted to go, what she wanted to do, what that looked like for her. And we're still like, we've got a year plan because she wants to start a family. She's got a great team of girls. She's got who she has put in the position as a team leader is absolutely wonderful. I have no doubt she's going to be such a great team leader. And, we've mapped out the entire journey between what we've implemented in the business and now, mentoring her as a leader so that she then can convert what I've been doing in the business into the team, and obviously still working alongside with the business owner. But, we did profit and loss and we worked out she wanted to step away and she was petrified, and it's been completely fine. And, she said, I could not have had imagined doing this 6 months ago, but for her to step away meant she did have to take the risk and invest in another team member because we need that money coming back in. And also I think one that everyone gets really nervous about is the front of house or clinic coordinator or receptionist, whatever you want to call it, and actually delegating them the roles and responsibilities that can take the time away from you. I definitely think business owners underestimate a clinic coordinator because they are sometimes, like, I wouldn't take away from a team leader because managing people is very, very, very hard. It's like you've got 6 children of your own. But the clinic coordinator, they should have their wraps on everything around that clinic, like from what stocks come in, what stocks going, what stocks needed, to who's cancelled, who's rescheduled, our, rebooking retention rates, where, like, everything. They need everything. So for a business owner to invest in someone like that and pick to the right hiring process and pick the right person means that they, again, are relieved from so many of those small but important jobs to be able to then refocus on their team.
I think there's a lot of value in having defined roles as well, not trying to get someone who does it all, because they're actually 2 completely different skill sets, and so much energy and attention and focus needs to go in just mastering that one thing, that if you're trying to manage all the team, then you're trying to do things like follow up with client bookings, then you're trying to do stock orders, like your brain is going to be in shambles and things will get missed, or things will get
expect that of a human.
No. And everyone needs to stop this, like, I'm looking for a unicorn, like, no.
We've got a team of unicorns. I was going to ask you, the business, Love Skin, she has, how many staff members does she have? And team leaders does she have?
18 when we had our podcast episode.
Rachel. And then team leaders or managers or?
So she's got 1 manager and then she's got 2 assistant managers, clinic coordinators, and then I think she said she had 2 on reception from memory. I may be getting it wrong, but that's just top of my head. And then the rest are therapists. And
that matrix of people, I suppose we could say is almost perfect. I can imagine, I don't know the ins and outs of her business, but that's exactly what that business needs. 1 really good team leader or exec team leader, 2 ICs, dividing the team, 18, then what's that each?
9 and 9.
Thank you. The baby brain keeps judge me. Right, 9 and 9. They then report back to her. She then implements probably the strategies for the month or whatnot. She's got the front of house that she's touching base with. Like, that's how it should be set up. And I suppose that's why she is so successful with such a huge team, because she doesn't just have 18 staff members with 1 team leader doing the show. It doesn't work like that.
It's so interesting you say that, because I was listening to a podcast episode with Stephen Bartlett and Daniel Presley, and what they spoke about is how the company culture and team management shifts as soon as you go from 12 people up to 13. So you can have a small, tight-knit crew up until about 12 people, and then as soon as you move 13 plus, people start to split off into their own groups within the company.
Oh, yes.
So you might have, here's our main crew. There's, 5 of us, 6 of us, 7, 8, you can still go out to dinners. You can still hang out. You can still have conversations. But then as soon as you get past that 12 and it's 13 up until about 40, all your different areas are going to split. And they spoke about companies that go from 13 to 40 is the most awkward stage and least profitable, because they're reinvesting so much into growing up the team and then completely separating each of the areas. So they have a whole marketing team, they have a whole finance team. And then that's when you look at these big companies that have, CEO, COO, CMO, CFO, like you've got every single category with its own separate team, its own leaders, it's a pyramid. Like everything is a pyramid. Who sits at the top and then who sits next, and then how are we supporting each person on the lower levels. And I think without having a structure, it does make it really hard. And I think something that's come up in bowling is actually quite interesting. My dad, he wants to get rid of all titles. He doesn't want anything. He just wants it to stay the same. And I was having a phone call and I actually said to him, I was like, I think I just realized you don't want this business to grow more. Like, he actually misses the old bowling alley when it was so simple. He just rocked up and it was like that. And I was like, we're a bit past that. We have to have a bigger team now. And it's not like you just hire a team for the sake of it and, absolutely diminish your profit margins. But it's also realizing that, hey, when we're fully booked, we can't run on 2 people. We need 2 people in the kitchen, 2 people in the bar, 1 person front counter and 1 person moving through maintenance, customer service. And coming back to what we said, with the roles and job descriptions and responsibilities, actually reassessing how your team structure supports your business goals is really important.
Yeah.
I think in the early stages, it will look one way. And then as you get bigger, you realize, I actually need to restructure. And I think that will be something that comes up for a lot of people when they grow past a stage of even wanting to be on clients. And if you want to remove yourself from the business and have, a manager who pretty much can run the business without you, like, what are your goals? Do you want to focus on training and education? And do you need a separate kind of team helping you out with that? Or do you just let the salon run and then you're here and in and out? Are you doing the management? Are you hiring a manager to do it for you? Like, there's so many nuances to it. Yeah. Because and this is why, coming back full circle to this whole, what are the steps? What are the changes? What do you prioritize? Without having any clarity on where you want to be in the end goal, it's going to be really hard to build anything. And that was probably the first thing we missed, is like, what is your why? Where do you actually see yourself? And I remember,
that's hard though, sometimes. I think that's hard because even in the evolution of my past year in business, I mean, at the start, I had just like a small goal. And then all of a sudden it meant I could have a bigger goal. And then all of a sudden it meant I could have a bigger goal. And, when we talk about what our goals might be for 2026, if you had asked me that 6 or 12 months ago, I would have been like, no. So I think that you have stepping stones of goals of where you want to be and what that looks like, because you could scale to 12 team members and be like, you know what, I'm capping here. Like, I don't need any more. Like, this just sits really good. But I think your goals change and shift as you progress through anyway. You need to
I agree with what you're saying.
You definitely need to have one, but sometimes they grow so quickly and change so quickly.
Only if you're doing things. If you're sitting on your ass and complaining about how saturated the industry is and, there's too much competition.
Poor. Yep.
Yeah. It's everything you've said is very true, and I agree. I also think, though, you need to be reassessing your goals quarterly. And I think so many people, they get started and then sometimes they fall off track and they forget why they started. And just knowing what your why is, like, why are you doing this? Is it because you want to build something that allows you to gain validation? Is it, success and respect in the industry? Is it so you can step away, have something that generates profit for you and you invest that into your future, whether that's property, family, time, like whatever your values align with? Or is it something else? And I think if you don't know what your why is from the start and you're just doing all these things to impress other people, or you're doing what you think you should be doing and not what you actually want, that's when all of this can feel like it's for the wrong reasons, or it didn't pay off, or it wasn't worth it. And I think everything we're saying here is just kind of breezing through the different stages and how big you could grow, but maybe you don't want to grow. Maybe you're happy just doing your own thing. And I think there's nothing wrong with that as well. But I also believe that in terms of keeping your motivation and your inspiration to stay in the industry, there's got to be something that you're working towards. And it doesn't have to be financial either. It could be, maybe I want to get featured on a podcast. Maybe I want to apply for this business award. Maybe I want all my clients to be returning back. And, like, it could be as small or as little or as big as you want. But I think so many people lose their sense of identity in this journey, and they work so hard. They do all the things and then they're like, what was it all for? And it's so interesting, because I agree with what you're saying, like, your goals will change and like things will change based on what happens in your life, the environment you're in. Like, if you fall pregnant, that's going to change everything. Yeah. 100%.
Well, even business owners who start off young and are now in a position where they're like, well, I want to start a family, but I don't know how to step away from this. And then business owners who are in amongst it all fall pregnant and they haven't set themselves up for that. So, and we're in a women-based industry where these are things we have to think about. And I suppose, yes, you do want to have goals and make sure that throughout the journey that you equip yourself with whatever it might be, or set yourself up so that you can continue to succeed at the goals you're after, whether they're pivoting and changing.
I think when you get to a stage in business where you are generating profit and you've got that money coming in, the next step is learning where to invest it. And I did my episode with Michelle about how you get your business profits to generate wealth. And I think there's a misconception around rich people and wealthy people. And rich people look like they have money, but they're usually in a lot of debt. Wealthy people are investing their money so that they have assets, so that they have, millions of dollars to retire on. And they're not just chasing the latest Temu thing and the latest sale and, Gucci handbags and all of that stuff. And I think when your business gets to a level of profitability, like profit and financial success, so much money that you don't know what you're doing with it, like that's when you've got to get a really good accountant, a good financial advisor, and learn where to reinvest that profit, whether that's in property, whether that's in shares, whether that's in an ETF, another business opportunity.
That you get those things, because I feel like I would want to get them sooner rather than later so that I knew what I was doing with my money sooner rather than later.
See, I'm doing it now, and I only am doing it now because of who I've surrounded myself with. And I think in the early stages of business, let's say like the first 3 to 5 years, you're doing a lot of reinvesting back into the business, right? You're going to be reinvesting into, let's say, your branding, your marketing. It might be your actual skills. Then when you've got team, you might get your team to do certain trainings. So sometimes seeing profit in the early stages can be hard because you've got to invest to build. But then when you get past that 5 to 10 year mark, you start seeing everything that you've invested into the business making a return. And I think even if you were to start planning that from the start, like actually, I feel like we're going back and forth so much, and I feel so sorry if this is confusing you as a listener. But something that I think about early is like, I wish more people did the profitable pricing calculator and factored in paying themselves a wage when they run their business. And most people I have spoken to and I've done profitable pricing with, they don't pay themselves a wage. And they're like, wow, I have like this team. And I'm like, what are you paying yourself? I'm like, I just transfer out whatever. And I'm like, you have 4 team members, like you need to be paying yourself a wage. And it's just reassessing things like all the time, doing a review. Am I happy with what's going on right now? What are my goals? What needs to change? Because business will change. COVID can happen, cost of living crisis, team members can leave. Everything is always subject to change.
Yes.
But being able to kind of, I guess, pivot and adapt and remain innovative throughout all of that is what keeps the best business owners alive in this industry. I think as soon as you get complacent, you let your ego get in the way and think, I don't need to upskill. I don't need to worry about social media. AI, nah, that's fine. I don't need to learn that. That's when you start to find
you're behind the ball.
Things don't go as well for you in the future because you're not
evolving.
Progressing. Yeah. 100%. Well, that was a bit of a long-winded conversation. I don't know if that even made sense, but thank you so much for taking the time to tune in to today's episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. Please send us a message on Instagram if you found some value or if you have any questions and need some support in your own business journey. Both Ellie and I are here to support you and make it a little more fun, But have a great week and we will catch you on the next episode. Bye.
See ya.
Audience exclusive.